For God's sake, Emma, when are you going to grow up? My father's voice echoed through our suburban home, making the walls of my makeshift studio seem to shrink. You're 26 years old living in our basement, and what do you have to show for it? Paint-stained clothes and a pile of canvases no one will ever buy. I kept my brush steady, adding another layer of deep blue to the massive canvas before me. The painting was unlike anything I'd done before, a swirling composition of stars and city lights that seemed to pulse with their own energy. I called it Urban Constellation, though I hadn't told anyone its name yet. Are you even listening? Dad's footsteps thundered down the basement stairs. Your mother and I have been patient, but this has gone on long enough. Finally, I set down my brush and turned to face him. He stood at the bottom of the stairs in his usual business attire, crisp suit, perfectly knotted tie, the uniform of success as he defined it. Behind him, my mother hovered anxiously, already dressed for their country club dinner. I sold 3 paintings last week, I said quietly. For what? $100 each. He gestured around the basement at my collected works. You can't live on that. Meanwhile, your sister Diana just made junior partner at her law firm. Your brother Michael's about to be promoted to VP of marketing. The familiar comparison. Diana and Michael, the golden children who'd followed the prescribed path to success. Meanwhile, I was the family disappointment, the dreamer who refused to face reality. The gallery showing is in 2 weeks, I reminded him. Harrison Gallery downtown. That little place in the arts district. Mom interjected. Honey, we want you to succeed, but maybe it's time to consider other options. Susan's daughter is hiring at her accounting firm. I turned back to my painting, adding another streak of blue that melted into the cityscape below the stars. They didn't understand. They couldn't see what I saw when I looked at a blank canvas, the possibilities, the magic waiting to emerge. We're done supporting this hobby, Dad declared. You have until the end of the month. Either get a real job or find your own place to live. The ultimatum hung in the air like the scent of turpentine. I kept painting, not trusting myself to speak. Behind me, I heard Mom's soft sigh, then their footsteps retreating up the stairs. Once they were gone, I sat back and really looked at Urban Constellation. It was different from my earlier work, bigger, bolder, more confident. Something had shifted in my technique over the past year. A breakthrough I couldn't quite explain but could feel in every brushstroke. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Olivia. Just finished hanging your pieces at the cafe. They look amazing. People are already asking about prices. I smiled. The cafe showing had been Olivia's idea. She convinced her uncle, who owned a trendy coffee shop downtown, to let me display some smaller pieces. It wasn't much, but it was exposure. Another buzz, this time from Marcus Chen, the owner of Harrison Gallery. My heart skipped a beat when I saw his name. Just checking final details for your show. The invitations go out tomorrow. This collection, there's something special here. Trust me. Marcus had discovered my work at a small community art fair 6 months ago. He'd stood in front of my booth for nearly an hour, studying each piece with an intensity that made me nervous. Finally, he'd handed me his card. You're doing something unique, he'd said. Come see me when you have a full collection ready. Now, 6 months later, that collection was almost complete. 12 large-scale paintings, each one exploring the intersection of urban landscapes and celestial phenomena. Cities bathed in aurora borealis, skyscrapers reflecting impossible constellations, street scenes transformed by cosmic light. My phone buzzed again, Diana this time. Heard about Dad's ultimatum. Maybe it's for the best. I know a headhunter who specializes in creative industries. Real jobs, but still artistic. I didn't respond. Diana meant well, but she was cut from the same cloth as our parents. Success had a specific look in their world. Offices, business cards, steady paychecks. Art was fine as a hobby, something to do on weekends between networking events and charity galas. But my art wasn't a hobby. It was my voice, my vision, my way of showing people how I saw the world. And lately that vision had started evolving into something I couldn't ignore. I worked through the night, losing myself in the painting. The city lights below the stars began to take on an almost 3-dimensional quality, seeming to float off the canvas. It was a technique I'd been developing, layers of paint and specialized glazes that created an illusion of depth and movement. Around 3 in the morning, Olivia called. You're still up, aren't you? She didn't wait for an answer. Someone just offered 5,000 for the piece in the cafe window. I nearly dropped my phone. What? The sunset over the bridge, the one with the northern lights. A collector saw it tonight. He wants to know if you have more like it. My hands started shaking. $5,000. More than I'd made from all my previous sales combined. Tell him about the gallery show, I said, my mind racing. And Olivia, don't tell my parents yet. Are you sure? This could get them off your back. Not yet. I want them to see it all at once. The whole collection, the gallery, everything. After we hung up, I stood back and looked at my basement studio with new eyes. The paintings weren't just paintings anymore. They were proof. Proof that I wasn't wasting my time, that my vision was worth something. The next morning, I heard my parents leaving for work. Dad's heavy footsteps above, Mom's clicking heels, the garage door opening and closing. As soon as they were gone, I dragged my newest pieces upstairs to photograph them in better light. The sun streaming through our living room windows brought out details I hadn't even noticed, subtle color variations in the starlight, hidden patterns in the cityscapes. These weren't just pretty pictures, they were something entirely new. My phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. Invitations are out. Already getting responses. Something big is coming, Emma. I can feel it. I started carrying the paintings back downstairs, but stopped halfway. Instead, I propped Urban Constellation against the living room wall and sat on a couch, really looking at it in the natural light. The stars seemed to swim above the city, creating patterns that drew the eye deeper and deeper into the canvas. The specialized glazing technique I developed made the light appear to shift as you moved around the painting, like a hologram or a living thing. The front door opened. Mom, home early from her volunteer work at the hospital gift shop. She stopped short when she saw the painting. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. She just stood there, her eyes fixed on the canvas, her expression unreadable. Finally, she said softly, "When did you learn to do that?" "It's a new technique I've been working on. The glazes create an illusion off." "No," she interrupted, stepping closer to the painting. "When did you learn to make something like this?" There was something in her voice I'd never heard before. Wonder? Recognition? For the first time, I wondered if maybe she could see it too, the magic I was trying to capture. But then her expression closed off, returning to its usual worried frown. "Your father won't change his mind, you know, not even for this." She hurried upstairs, leaving me alone with the painting. But something had shifted in that brief moment. She had seen it, even if she wouldn't admit it. 2 weeks. 2 weeks until the gallery opening. 2 weeks to prove to everyone, my parents, my siblings, myself, that art wasn't just a hobby or a waste of time. It was who I was. And soon they would all understand exactly what that meant. I worked frantically over the next few days, putting the finishing touches on the collection. Each painting was a piece of my soul laid bare on canvas, each one pushing the boundaries of my new technique a little further. The centerpiece would be Urban Constellation, the largest and most ambitious piece I'd ever created. 8 feet tall and 12 feet wide, it dominated any space it occupied. The city lights and stars seemed to dance across its surface, creating patterns that changed depending on where you stood. Marcus came to see the finished collection 3 days before the opening. He stood in my basement studio, moving from piece to piece in complete silence. Finally, he turned to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Do you understand what you've created here?" he asked. I shook my head, suddenly nervous. "This technique you've developed, the way the light seems to move, the depth you've achieved. I'd never seen anything like it, and I've been in this business for 30 years. He pulled out his phone and started making calls. I heard fragments of conversations about lighting requirements, security measures, insurance values. It all seemed surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. That evening, as I was cleaning my brushes, I overheard my parents talking upstairs. "Can't let her throw her life away," Dad was saying. "Diana says she knows people who could help. But what if?" Mom's voice was hesitant. "What if we're wrong?" Today, in the living room, I saw one of her new paintings. It was different. Different doesn't pay the bills, Margaret. Different doesn't build a future. If only they knew what Marcus had said. If only they could see what was about to happen. But in 2 days, they would understand. Everyone would. The question was I ready for what that understanding would bring? The evening of the gallery opening arrived with an almost electric tension in the air. I stood in Harrison Gallery's main room, watching the staff make final adjustments to the lighting. My paintings lined the walls, each one carefully positioned to maximize its unique qualities. Urban Constellation dominated the far wall, already drawing curious glances from the early arriving guests. Everything's ready. Marcus appeared at my elbow, looking more excited than I'd ever seen him. The collector who bought your piece from the cafe is here early, and he brought friends. I nodded, barely hearing him. My parents would arrive soon. They'd promised to come, though Dad had made it clear he was only doing so to prove his point about the reality of the art world. Oh, and Emma, Marcus handed me a glass of champagne. The insurance company just finished their final valuation of the collection. I think you might want to sit down for this. I took the paper he offered, my hands trembling slightly. As I read the number, the glass nearly slipped from my fingers. That can't be right. It is. Your technique is not just unique, it's revolutionary. The way you've layered the glazes, the interaction with light. Collectors are already calling, and they haven't even seen the full collection yet. The gallery began to fill with people, art critics, collectors, curious locals who'd heard about the mysterious new artist with the revolutionary technique. I watched from a quiet corner as they moved from painting to painting, their expressions changing from interest to amazement. The depth is incredible. Look how the light seems to move. I've never seen anything like this. My phone buzzed. A text from Diana. Running late. Had to practically drag Dad away from the office. Mom's nervous wreck. This better be worth it. Worth it. As if my entire life's passion could be measured in those terms. Then I saw them, my family entering the gallery. Dad looking uncomfortable in his suit. Mom clutching her purse like a shield. Diana and Michael scanning the crowd with professional interest. They hadn't noticed me yet. I watched as they moved through the space, approaching my work for the first time without prejudice, without knowing it was mine. Mom stopped first, in front of a piece called Celestial Traffic. Streaming headlights transformed into shooting stars over a rain-slicked street. She leaned closer, then stepped back, then moved sideways, watching the light play across the surface. "Harold," she whispered, "look at this." Dad joined her, his dismissive expression faltering as he took in the painting. "How is it, moving like that?" "It's a proprietary technique," a nearby critic explained eagerly. "The artist developed it herself. Nobody's seen anything quite like it." Michael had wandered over to Urban Constellation. Even from across the room, I could see the moment it hit him, the recognition of something extraordinary. He pulled out his phone, probably to Google the artist's name. Diana was the first to spot me. She froze, looking between me and the paintings with growing realization. "Emma," her voice carried across the gallery. These are yours." The room quieted. My parents turned, finally seeing me standing there in my simple black dress, champagne glass in hand. "Hello," I said softly. "Welcome to my gallery showing." Dad's face went through a series of emotions. Confusion, disbelief, something that might have been the beginning of understanding. You did all of this?" Before I could answer, Marcus clinked his glass for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the artist, Emma Parker. Her groundbreaking collection Urban Celestial represents a true revolution in contemporary art, and I'm pleased to announce that Urban Constellation has just been acquired by the Modern Art Museum for their permanent collection, for the sum of $2 million. The gallery erupted in applause. Mom's purse hit the floor with a thud. Dad seemed to have forgotten how to close his mouth. $2 million? Diana whispered. "Actually," Marcus continued, grinning, "I'm being informed that 6 more pieces have just sold. Total sales for the evening so far, $8.5 million. Michael had to grab Mom's arm to steady her. Dad looked like he might need similar support. "The technique," a collector called out. "How did you develop it?" I moved to stand beside Urban Constellation, feeling its energy, its life. "I spent years experimenting in my parents' basement. Everyone told me I was wasting my time. But I knew there was something there, just waiting to be discovered." "The basement," Mom repeated faintly. "All those nights, all those canvases, all that wasted time." I finished for her, unable to keep a hint of satisfaction from my voice. "Is that what you were thinking?" Dad stepped forward, his face a mix of emotions I'd never seen before. "Emma, Mr. Parker," Marcus interrupted smoothly. Your daughter has just revolutionized contemporary art. Her technique is being hailed as the most significant innovation in painting this decade. The Modern Art Museum is already planning a solo exhibition. I watched my father, the man who measured success in quarterly reports and corner offices, try to process this new reality. His artsy basement-dwelling daughter was now worth more than he'd earned in his entire career. How? He finally managed. By believing in myself, I said quietly. By not letting anyone convince me that my dreams were worthless. By working every day in that basement you thought was a waste of space, developing something that had never been done before. The evening became a blur after that. Collectors clamoring for my attention, critics asking about my influences, museum curators discussing future exhibitions. My family stood in stunned silence, watching as their understanding of success was completely rewritten. Later, as the crowd thinned, Mom found me by Urban Constellation. I saw it, she said softly. That day in the living room. I saw something different, something special. But I was too afraid to believe in it. And now, she touched my arm gently. Now I'm ashamed it took millions of dollars to make me see what was right in front of me all along. Dad was harder. He stood stiffly by the gallery entrance as the last guest left, looking lost in his own world. The accounting job is probably off the table, I said, trying to break the tension. He didn't smile. I was wrong, he said finally, the words seeming to cost him physical effort. About everything. About you. Yes, I agreed. You were. These paintings, he gestured around the gallery. They're extraordinary, and not because of what they sold for. They're extraordinary because they're impossible, because you did something everyone said couldn't be done. I thought about all the nights I'd heard him and Mom arguing about my future, all the family dinners where my work was dismissed as a hobby, all the comparisons to my successful siblings. That's what I've been trying to tell you, I said. Art isn't about following a safe path. It's about creating something new, something that changes how people see the world. Marcus approached with a thick envelope. Final sales for the evening. Would you like to see? I opened it, then wordlessly handed it to my father. He read the number, then read it again. $12 million in one night. The basement is yours, he said weakly, for as long as you want it. I laughed. Actually, I just bought a warehouse space downtown. Plenty of room for large canvases, and natural light, something basements tend to lack. Diana and Michael had been hovering nearby, still processing everything they'd seen. So, Diana said, trying to sound casual, I guess you won't be needing that headhunter's number. Probably not, but I might need a good lawyer to handle all the contracts museums and galleries are sending me. Know anyone? She beamed. For the first time in years, I was just her sister, not the family disappointment, not the basement artist, just Emma. The next morning, I returned to the gallery early. Most of the paintings were tagged with red sold markers, but Urban Constellation remained, waiting to be transported to its new home at the Modern Art Museum. I stood before it, remembering all the nights I'd spent creating it in that basement, all the doubts I pushed aside, all the voices telling me to be realistic and grow up. My phone buzzed, a text from Dad. Your mother and I would like to take you to dinner, to celebrate, and to apologize. Another buzz, Diana. The museum's lawyers want to meet about commissioning more pieces. Need representation? And another, Michael. My marketing team is freaking out about your technique. Any chance of collaboration? I smiled, turning my phone off. They still didn't quite get it. This wasn't about money or success or proving them wrong. It was about being true to my vision, even when no one else could see it. Marcus arrived carrying coffee and contracts, ready for day 2 of your new life. I looked at Urban Constellation one last time, watching the light play across its surface, creating patterns that seemed to exist somewhere between reality and dreams. No, I said, ready for day 1 of my real life. The one I always knew I could have, if I just kept believing in it. He nodded, understanding. Sometimes the biggest leap of faith is believing in yourself when no one else will. And sometimes, I added, the sweetest success is showing them why they should have believed all along. As the morning sun streamed through the gallery windows, I watched its light dance across my paintings, these pieces of my soul that had finally found their place in the world. Each one a testament to the power of believing in your dreams, even when everyone else calls them worthless. Because sometimes what others call a waste of time is actually the beginning of something revolutionary. Something that changes not just your life, but the way people see the world itself. And that, more than any amount of money, is what makes it all worthwhile.